Review and possible approval to modify the district service regulation policy, OPDS 7.000.
Well, in our review at our first several staff meetings, we've looked at existing problems that we have. One of the problems that came to our attention is we have a number of people who are on the disconnect list every month. And Becky, if you'll pull up this first pie chart, if you would please. Yes. Our policy describes the process that we go through. When somebody does not pay their bill, the first thing that we do is give them a courtesy call to see if there's some type of problem, make sure they're home, encourage them to pay before we have to take any further action. You can see under, we've had one of our staff who has compiled, this is for our entire system, the number of people that they've contacted, and that's the bottom portion in the blue for every week during July. And so you can see on that first week there were 60 people who were delinquent with their bills. And so they called those 60 people, and when they did that, 19 of them made arrangements to pay their bill on, maybe not on time, but pay it without us having to go out and disconnect them. And then 57 people actually came in and paid their bill. That reminder helped them come in and pay. And so then that number is pretty small. You can see what that is? I think it's a 3.
I think it's a 3.
I think it's a 3. There were 3 people who were actually disconnected. And then one of those people, after they were disconnected, came back and paid. And so the reason we have 2 that are disconnected, there are some people who just move away. There's some people who they're disconnected. It takes them another month to save the money and come in and pay, I guess. I don't know. Some people come in later to pay. But that's kind of an odd number, but that's the way it works. So we go through these steps to try and not, we don't want to turn off a good customer who's always been turned on their bills, and maybe they're a bit off on vacation or something like that. We don't want to cut them off, so we give them every opportunity to pay their bills. Now the people who don't pay their bills, they can come in and pay, and they can request to be reconnected. Okay. Under our current policy, we charge them a $25 fee to send a meter reader out to reconnect their meter. And that's also supposed to cover the time that the meter reader goes out and takes the meter off. And so we felt that was awfully low. The other problem that we have is there are a number of people who come back from St. George or Las Vegas or wherever, and they'll call in the evening and they want to be reconnected that evening. We were still charging them $25, but we were paying our meter reader overtime to do that. And so we felt it was much more equitable to change the policy. If you'll pull up the new policy, Becky, or the proposed policy. Our primary goal here was to have the people who were causing the problem pay for the problem. So we're proposing that $25 fee be changed to $50 for reconnection during business hours. And if they request a reconnection after business hours, that they pay $125, which covers the other expenses to do that.
Do we have a work document to show, like for the during business hours, what it costs for that person to go out the vehicle, the time that, and it is definitely more than $25.
Yes,
like
I had Terry and Richard and John all look at that, because sometimes, right now, John's staff under the metering department does that, but on occasion, if they're not available, Rich's crew will go out to do that.
And what are we proposing it does really cost, 50 or 75?
It was just under $50. And if you take into account the 2 visits, the truck time, and all the other expenses, it was just under $50. Now, just as a bit of information, we compared with, talked to all of the neighboring utilities. Boulder City still continues to charge $100. Dixie Escalante has theirs at $50 in Arizona and $75 in Utah. The reason they do that is because they say they've gone for a rate change in Arizona, but it hasn't passed yet, so they're going to raise their Arizona rate. Lincoln County pays a lineman rate plus 25%. Mount Wheeler pays asks for $125
During regular business hours?
That is after hours. After hours. They during business hours, they're $50. Valley Electric collects $250 after hours and $100 during business hours. And Wellsboro Electric has a fee of $100 during business hours, $180 after hours.
So we're well below any other utility as far as the after or during business hours.
And we discussed that with them. The reason some of them do that, they're actually capturing a little bit more than their wages, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to discourage people from getting on that disconnect list. So they're using it to discourage people, so they're collecting a little bit extra when they do that.
Now, I've read back east, like during the winter and things like that, they're not allowed to disconnect no matter what. Do we run into that problem in the summers when the temperature's so hot that it becomes a danger if you disconnect a person and they were to...
If we go to disconnect, if we've tried every avenue, we will disconnect them. But if during that process, if they will tell us that there's some type of medical issue or any other type of issue that there's a concern about, we will make an arrangement with them to have that taken care of later, so that we don't have a situation where they're put in harm's way.
Where they start calling on Monday and the disconnect is not until Thursday, they actually have 4 days notice that there's a possible disconnect.
But if there's a medical hazard there, we must disconnect.
But they have to notify us.
They have to notify us,
Right,
right?
those are in place that they should come even prior to that disconnect time, that they should let us know ahead of time, and they can sign up for that.
Okay.
Richard,
I just know I've read back east, they were doing it in these areas where it gets so cold in the winter, and they were not allowed to disconnect some places because of that.
yeah, we'll take any situation like that into account. Rich just reminded me too that on Thursday is our disconnect day, and we've staggered the shift for the meter readers, so they work a little bit late into the day. So they come in 2 hours late and work 2 hours late, so that it helps customers avoid that extra.
And that's considered during work hours.
Yeah, that will be considered during work hours.
So we're basically covering our costs. It's nothing, we're not really making anything.
That's correct, and that was our concern, is we wanted to make sure that we covered our costs.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve the modification to the district service regulation policy, OPDS 7.000. I've got the motion. Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I guess I should have allowed for some discussion on that, but no discussion. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.